I'm your host, Adam Messer, and thank you for joining us. This is our second hour of the Adam Messer Show. And my special guest today is artist and musician Randyl Bishop. And Sebastian, do you mind leading off just a little bit of music for us, some live music? This is Sebastian Messer, everybody. All right, thank you, Sebastian. I appreciate that. And Randall, welcome back, man. I really had a good time talking with you the first hour. I'm looking forward to this next hour talking with you.
Thanks, me too. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. So, man, let's just go right into it. We were talking about during the little break. We were talking about Mantlepiece, and can you let's just talk about it? Like, can you kind of give us a breakdown on some of the other stuff that they've got going on, and then
Absolutely. They've done some recently. They've done some charity work for the Flint River Preservation Project, and their last album was focused on that. For those that don't know, it's an effort to clean up the Flint River. A really great cause, but again, the band has been around for a long time, and they've got a lot of material out there. There's numerous albums on pretty much any platform you can imagine, and as a whole, like they're an amorphous like collective of studio and live musicians under the Atlanta-based Gentron Records label. It's a boutique label that I've been happy to be associated with. Shortly after I launched the series Hawk of New York, right around the book and record set, I think Ricky Zero pulled me into Gentron and made what would have been a very amateurish project much more professional. The first Hawk of New York soundtrack was a collection of cover music, but this album is conceptually geared specifically for Hawk of New York and where he is now and where the character is going in the future. This up till now, the last issue was probably the very first adventure of him as a man acting as a anti-hero vigilante type, my universe's version of Batman. And I was really happy when the Daredevil Netflix series came out, and I suddenly had something I could point to and say, yeah, the tone of that's what I'm going for Hawk of New York. But the last comic was a little bit lighter than that. It's more like a more classic Marvel comic where Spider-Man and Hulk meet for the first time. Spider-Man thinks Hulk's a bad guy. Hulk thinks Spider-Man is a puny spider person, and they go at it until they figure out that they're both good guys. And that's more or less what happened with between Hawk and the Bogre, Mitch Rogers' creation, who's guest starring in that issue. Big crossover event, interdimensional MacGuffin that makes it all happen via a character that I deemed Waco, who's an evil. He happens to look a lot like David Koresh, and he's like the bad guys, the Devil Marauders motorcycle club. He's their dark priest, so he's able to conjure evil spirits and do different spells and whatnot. But he's kind of a worm of a human being. He's not really like the David Koresh like person at all. But he got the name Waco because he happened to be a priest and he happened to look just like David Koresh. So that's where all that came from.
And you want to play the "Guess You're Gone" song, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mantlepiece. Mantlepiece is. They are extremely excited about the song. It was first released from this album, and it's easily one of the standout tracks. Again, it's available on all the streaming and download sites featuring Mantlepiece.
All right, let's go ahead and play it because I want to get into like a little bit more about them, but let's play the song for everybody.
One final note on this. This will be the first music video that's released at the end of August, next August, for my
Awesome.
music video compilation. So
Awesome.
Guess You're Gone, everybody. Mantlepiece, the band from A New Way.
Awesome. Here we go. right, everybody. That was Mantlepiece, Guess You're Gone from the Hawk of New York soundtrack. And our special guest today is Randyl Bishop, who is the creator of Hawk of New York. So, Randyl, I really appreciate you being on the show today. Let's talk a little bit more. We kind of got into some of the nuts and bolts last hour, and I'm trying to weave in the like the comic book stuff with the music stuff, and you have kind of made this a multimedia experience with the music and the comics and the videos. When you started getting into doing the comic books, did you, because I'm kind of thinking along here, did you kind of feel like, because that was about the same time when like the Marvel Cinematic stuff was like really starting to blow up, and then the Avengers thing came together not too long after you had published.
That's right.
And did you have like in your mind kind of the same thing, like you've got this Hawk of New York, you've got this storyline, and then kind of just crossing over different media platforms, because you've done a lot of different things with it.
I was fortunate enough to get some really good advice when I first started doing my comic book, and that was to play to your strengths. I didn't really want to launch Hawk of New York. I wanted to launch some other characters that I'd never touched before. Again, Hawk of New York's based on something I did in high school. It's a reboot, and it's loosely based on it. It's a lot different now, a lot better now than it used to be. But it's better because I had something to pull from. I had a stronger base established, and that was pointed out to me by the group that I was part of when I first launched it. Part of that group, believe it or not, you mentioned the Avengers, like he is the stunt double for Black Panther in the Black Panther movie and in Avengers Endgame.
Wow.
I didn't actually work with him on. I worked with him on one indie project that was a movie, but I don't think it ever saw release. So like I can't really say that I've worked on any projects with him. I just got to know him, and he's a very intense guy, patterned after the style of Bruce Lee. His name's Nathaniel Perry, or Nate. I knew him as Nate. But the point of it is that if you draw from your strengths, if you play your strengths, you have a better shot at getting out there. The approach that I took was in more like Army educational circles referred to as transmedia. Excuse me, my voice is cracking up. Let me take a drink.
Fine. Yeah. You said transmedia?
Yeah, it just simply means across media.
Yeah.
So transmedia is an approach that isn't new. It's been around since, if you think about Superman, and when he was launched, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster put together this concept. They shopped around different publishers, and they had lots of failures before they finally found success with Action Comics #1. And that was like 1938. Within 3 years, Superman was a Cupid doll at the World's Fair. He was a cartoon serial, like the old Max Fleischer cartoons that everybody's familiar with, just classic animation. He was a live action serial, which are done in black and white with, I want to say Kirk Allen. Kirk Allen was the first guy to play Superman, I want to say, and then George Reeve. And then later, and George Reeve was kind of the one that solidified it in the 50s. And then, of course, Christopher Reeve. And then, who we have now. Can't recall the guy, Henry Cavill. But he was also in a radio serial. He was also in newspapers as a strip. So he was in comic books, strips, movie serials, movie cartoons, radio, and dolls. And probably some other merch too, like some pins and buttons and things like that. Whatever they could.
And wasn't he like one of the first balloons too in the Macy's Day? I just remember something like that. I mean, I don't know the history of it, but I just remember something like that.
And it was such a strong concept, and it spoke to the times of when it came out. Like, Superman is very rooted in early 40s, patriotism and Americanism. And to remove him from that, to get him to work in today's age is more tricky than it used to be. Because our idea of morality is splintered, and for different reasons. But,
well, and the anti-hero is so popular now, and really, like a Captain America and a Superman type, like they, even with, honestly, even with when they were like, oh, Captain America's a Hydra agent, it just didn't fit. To me, it's
Right.
like, they're not the anti-hero type.
It's trickier. It's trickier to write morally forthright characters. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we're getting a lot of anti-heroes. We get films like Birds of Prey, where like I enjoyed it. I was entertained by that movie, but I didn't see a single character in that film that was morally likable. Like morally, they were all reprehensible.
Or the Joker movie.
That was kind of the point. That was the kind of the point of the movie, is that they don't have to be morally right for you to have an entertaining story. It felt a little bit like an experiment in that way, and a little bit of a turning point in where we are now.
Everybody, you're listening to, speaking of where we are right now, everybody, you're listening to WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul, and my special guest today is Randyl Bishop. I completely agree with you. And for example, the Joker movie, broke $1 billion,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all about
and the reason
mental
why
health
is
issues.
It spoke to what the Times is asking for.
And there was not really a lot of superhero type stuff, and it was actually just kind of like normal.
Mm-hmm.
Not. I mean, when I say normal, I don't mean normal. I'm talking about like there was a lot of abnormal behavior, but I'm just talking about like the Joker himself. He committed a couple of brutal murders, but there was not like a lot of.
It was all in the presentation.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of over the top. Like when you think of the Joker and the Batman, like Tim Burton type stuff. There wasn't any of that. It was all like kind of deep, dark, anti-hero stuff.
And again, it was movie makers playing to their strengths. They knew that it would be impossible to present a morally forthright character like Superman, but it would be fairly easy and fairly low budget to do a really good character study of Joker. And that's what they did. That's what they gave people, and it exploded. And, the marketing for that was kind of normal. They didn't really go above and beyond the way they did way long ago when they launched Superman. But my point in saying all this is, like, if you do a transmedia approach and you have a strong idea and your execution is decent, at least it's, decent to excellent, then you got a shot at something that's going to stand the test of time and probably outlive you. You have to stay at it. You have to make it a part of your daily life. But it's for better or for worse.
That's a failure of a mission. I have an admission of failure myself here, Randyl. I have, the last several years. I mean, like when I met you, I know we talked about comics. We geeked out about comics a lot, and over the years we talked of whatever. But I have a problem where, like, I put out a lot of stuff. I make and produce a lot of things, but I also have like a ton of ideas. And so, like, with the comic book thing, I'm like, okay, I don't want to do a bazillion different comic books. I want to do one, like, character. Like, okay, so I've got this character, and this is kind of going back to the Bionic Berry. And I'm just asking you, because this is real-world stuff, y'all. I asked Randyl if we could talk about, like, indie publishing and all. And this is one of the things we do on the show. We talk about, like, problems that people have. And I'm trying to use myself as a real-world example. So here's the thing. I came up with this idea of a character called Tex Riddle, The Adventures of Tex Riddle, Space Librarian, and I wanted to do it as like a novelette series. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like the Bionic Berry kind of gives you like, it automatically kind of gives you like this laugh, right? Like a kind of lighthearted, fun character that gets into the, I almost called it the misadventures of Tex Riddle because, that kind of thing. But I was thinking, okay, I really have been getting interested in doing a comic book. And Bionic Berry, I was like, okay, I can cross this over. And if I make this series into, have you seen those hybrid comics where they're a comic book with like novel type stuff, kind of like the Watchmen and like the new X-Men stuff? Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the.
Well, I haven't seen the new X-Men stuff, but
Dawn X, House X, that kind of stuff. Wildly popular. One of the best modern comics I've read in a long time. But it's like a comic book.
No, that was what. That was what now? I'm sorry. What
House of X and Dawn of X.
Oh, House of X. Yeah,
X-Men. the relaunch of X-Men.
I have some House of X in my read pile, and I haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh man,
I'm glad to hear it's really good.
It is.
You're the second person to tell me that.
In my opinion, it's probably one of the best. And the new Wolverine offshoot, I picked that up too, and it's an offshoot. It's like a continuation of whatever. But anyway, so like they have comic books like the traditional panels and all that, and then they have like some of prose with it. Like a page of prose, kind of backstory or whatever. And I was thinking, okay, that could be a format that I could do because I know it's usually 21 pages, for a book or whatever. But I also like the novel part of it. You know what I mean? Like I like the novelette or the prose part of it. And so, but going back to Mission of Failure, like I have a bazillion different ideas, and I've been trying to figure out which way is the best way to execute on this idea that I have.
There are different personality types, and more writerly personality types are like, I have this great idea, they develop it, they turn it into a script or a novel or whatever, and then they move on to the next project. They move on to their next great idea. You have to determine, are you one of those personality types, or are you more method actor? I'm more method. Like I'm limited in my creativity. Like I have a different kind of energy than that. I can't move on that easily from one thing to the next. I have trouble letting go of things.
Well, I am like this is the thing. I like to start new projects and I like to finish new projects. I don't typically leave projects alone, but like as far as like longevity, I'm thinking, okay, I've only got so much time in the day and so much energy. And for a comic book series, I don't want to be spread all over the universe. I want to have kind of like a focus.
Right. Well, you've got to see what your support structure looks like. You got to look at your support structure. If you can support multiple ideas and multiple launches over time, great. If you cannot, you need to pick your strongest one, even if you have some reservations about it, and go with that. And do that one and do it as well as you can. And I would also stay away from getting too bogged down. Mm-hmm. Don't go for like, you can plan a large project, that's fine, but don't execute a large project. Don't attempt to execute a large project.
That's why I love the seven-page strip that you were talking about. I love that idea.
Execute that as best as you can.
Yeah.
And then gauge reaction, and then learn the lessons when the stakes are small.
Well, I think that combo 7-page thing you're saying,
it's much easier.
I think that's a great way to test the waters, because I could be like, well, I can put 7 pages together, and I can do like you're saying with like it being like a wallet size or whatever. I could figure that out. I mean, I know you've already got the resources and all that, but
for me, I love comic book medium so much because for me, it's about communicating ideas, and I think it does it better than any other medium. You've got an unlimited special effects budget. Your special effects budget is limited only by your ability to convey it. That's it. If you can draw it, even like I said, if it's decent or better, like look at Dick Tracy. Look at early Dick Tracy stuff. That was pretty crude. Like there's a lot of panels where you're like, really? Everything's labeled because it improves the clarity because the artist, he's a great artist, but he couldn't really draw.
Like so, this is a detective. That guy, yeah.
Right. Like he probably could draw. But he was cartooning. He was using a lot of symbolic representations most of the time instead of more realistic ones that we use now.
Yeah.
And it's just sign of the times. People will go around saying, "Oh, comics are dying." No, they're not. They're transforming. This is what transformation looks like. And when
I think the delivery medium too is people they don't, like when we were kids, they still had comics on the little spinner rack.
Yeah, there's distribution issues now, and there didn't used to be.
But they're coming back around, with that Bass Reeves out of Walmart and all that.
Yep, Allegiance Arts books, Bass Reeves and Red Rooster and Futurists. The Nora Jones is another really good one for if you have.
I picked up all 4, so they're on my TBR. I did read the Bass Reeves one; it's pretty good.
Yeah, there comic books for young girls are very hard to find, and Nora, I think it's Nora Jones is the name of it. Nora Saga, that's what it is. It's perfect for if you got a young girl who you want to get into comics. That's like the best comic you can probably give her. But anyway, I love using this example. When color photography was developed, it did not replace oil painting. However, the role that oil painting played in society changed dramatically. It was never the same. You used to go to an oil painter and say, "I need a family portrait." If you were rich, only rich people got them, for one thing. It was exclusive providence of the rich. Well, with color photography, that all changed. Now if you just, had a few shekels put together, you could go and get your portrait made and maybe a couple and get the family package. It wasn't a big deal. But what did that do to the oil painters? Well, it made them adapt. You know, it made them change, and that's exactly what's happening with comics now. And it happened in the '80s when they changed their production standards. You know, anything from '80 on has been mass produced.
Well, yeah,
you know,
like
anything
for that as an
79
example,
back was not.
They were
Not
charging, you know,
necessarily.
like back in the day, they were charging like $1.50 for newsprint stuff, and then Image comes along and they're like $1.95, and you got this high quality, glossy, you know, comic book, and you're like, man, for 50 cents more, I get this much of a quality
Yep.
improvement.
And Image's whole business model revolved around mass production. Like they had to print a lot for them to make their margins. They had to.
Yeah.
That's why Image comics are basically worthless now. Like there's only a few that are worth over $1.
Yeah.
You know?
Pretty much.
And you know, there's some really great books. Don't get me wrong, great creators, but yeah,
it's all flipped on its head. But you know, the thing I was kind of referring to is like with quality, you know, changing, because it changed the medium. It changed, you know, like what people can expect, because once you go, once you know, it's like you can't unknow. You're not going to go back and like, oh, wait a minute, why would I go back to lesser quality?
Right.
You know, if
again,
it doesn't make sense.
It's about the idea, and you know, my comic book was lesser quality. I'll admit it. It was in newsprint. It's on cheap paper.
No. I didn't mean like that. Your comic book was not lesser quality. It was like retro, and it was a high grade quality.
Well,
of what you did.
Spoke to the idea. It spoke to the idea of what people wanted at the time. You know, that's what you got to do. That's the trick. You have to read the tea leaves a little bit and see, well, what is there more of? You know, am I just adding to what's already out there, or am I offering something truly different?
Yeah,
you know,
it's like vinyl coming back, man. You know, vinyl, you know, CDs were considered superior for so long, and then now it's like vinyl has actually outsold, you know, MP3s and CDs over the last, you know, couple years.
That's a stretch goal for me on my Patreon, is to release a new way on vinyl. I would
that would
love
be sweet
to re-release this album on vinyl. I would love to do that.
That'd be
In
great.
fact, the original soundtrack, the Hockey New York soundtrack with all the covers, was supposed to be released on cassette tape. And the label talked me out of it, saying, well, I can get you a lot of good artists to participate, but only if you release it on CD. They will not go along with this cassette because nobody buys cassettes. Well, you know, later on that same year, the best-selling album of that year was Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, released on cassette tape.
Wow. Speaking of the album,
too,
which song do you want to play next from the album, from Hawk of New York?
We spoke about the need for, you know, atmospheric music, and the fact that the band Mantlepiece has been in part inspired by Pink Floyd, and this song is the most Pink Floyd-ish, in my opinion, and my favorite track from the album. And I'm really glad we have enough time for it. It's a longer song, but sit back and enjoy. Oh my gosh, the backing vocals will take you away. It's really great.
And
it's called All the World.
That's what I was wondering if that's the one. I just didn't want to say it before. Okay, so everybody, this is All the World by Mantlepiece from the Hawk of New York soundtrack, and we're talking today with Randyl Bishop, who is the creator of Hawk of New York. So here is All the World, and kick back and enjoy this one. This is, like you said, it's a nice little atmospheric piece. So. All right, everybody, that was Mantlepiece, All the World from the soundtrack, Hawk of New York. And we have been interviewing the creator, Randyl Bishop of Hawk of New York. And now here is Sebastian Messer. He's going to play a little live music, and then we're going to do the station ID stuff. So stay tuned. Here's Sebastian Messer. you, Sebastian.
Now you have a chance to support both Savannah Independent Artists and WRUU during this shelter-in-place order to stop the spread of COVID-19. Creatives in Need is a group of independent artists hosted by the Roots Up Gallery, which is collaborating with WRUU during this shelter-in-place to offer an online art gallery at www.rootsupgallery.com. For every work of art sold at this online gallery, the artists receive 80% from the sales and 20% goes to WRUU and its programs like Art on the Air. Interested listeners can go to www.rootsupgallery.com to start shopping today.
WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
WRUU 107.5 FM is a new and different listener-supported and all-volunteer community radio station for Savannah. Our diverse broadcast and web programming is supported by generous listeners who value our passion and spunk. We are independent of other media and receive no government or large corporate support. People like you are our largest and most important source of our funding. Go to WRUU.org to find out how you can make a one-time or a monthly contribution. Thank you.
All right, everybody, we are back, and thank you so much for tuning in today. And like the announcement said, if you'd like to contribute, we can't do this without you. So really thank you so much for making my show and other shows like this possible. And Randyl, I actually have a special announcement. I didn't want to really overcast our talk today, but this is actually my episode for my second anniversary.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Congratulations! Thrilled to be a part of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually, my first show was June 16th, 2018. And so this is my second anniversary weekend. So actually Tuesday will be like my second anniversary, but I won't have another show until next week. So this is it. This is awesome.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I love the WRUU family. Having an opportunity to be able to talk with folks like yourself. I love talking.
You were talking about being a part of my journey. Like, I'm happy to be a part of your journey.
Yeah.
Pat, you've been very busy. When you pointed me to the website, I was like, oh my gosh, he's got a lot of stuff under his belt here.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I'll sift through this and I'll listen to some of them and try to familiarize myself.
Yeah.
And you've had some really great guests. It's incredible to see how much you've come along since when I met you. It's been really, really remarkable.
I appreciate it. I think actually when I first met you, I just started doing photos for the paper with Spotted as a volunteer. And then later on that same year is when I became a published journalist with them. And so this is in August will be like my 6th year doing that, which I can't believe it's been 6 years. I mean, it's like, wow. So, but this is the second anniversary, and everybody listening, I really appreciate y'all. We can't do this without you. So, if you feel so inclined, please check out the WRUU.org website and consider that. And then, Randyl, you were talking about Patreon. So can you tell us a little bit about your Patreon? Now, we can't do a call to action, ask people to support that, but can you talk a little bit about your Patreon and what you do on there?
Absolutely. The Patreon is something that, like, first of all, like, my patrons are just the most amazing people. Like, they've been supporting me even when I failed them, and to ask that of anybody is too much. And these people support me and know what I'm really about. Like, they understand what I'm trying to accomplish, I think, and they're behind me as much as they're able to. And Patreon is something I'm leaning more into now. I've got a video up on the site that kind of breaks down, like, the overview of my business and what I'm trying to accomplish with Time Bound Entertainment and the art of Randyl Bishop. I'm currently not open for commissions. I had to close it because I just got too busy. I got so much stuff, and hopefully after the convention in Augusta on the 4th and 5th, I'll be able to reopen my commissions. I think I should be caught up by then.
I think Augusta's like an hour and a half from Savannah. That's about it. That's
yeah.
not far.
Oh man, it's really cool that it's at this sort of nexus crossroads between Charlotte, Atlanta, Savannah, and even Orlando. Like it's sort of, there's not a whole lot happening. What is happening is the Augusta Toy Comic Show. That is the big main event here, and there's also a GamaCon. I'm not sure if that one's still up and running, but that's more like manga, anime kind of guys. That's it. That's kind of it. There's a gaming convention. I'm blanking on the name for that one, but I've done that one a couple times, and it was fun. But it's not a huge scene. It's not like Savannah, not like Atlanta or Charlotte, where there's something happening pretty much every weekend. Like there's Dragon Con in Atlanta, and Heroes Con in Charlotte, and you got Greenville now coming up with SC Comic Con. Just so many big events, and it's smack dab in the middle of it. You can drive, a couple hours this way and go to that one, and then you can, the next month, you drive a couple hours to the other direction and hit another great event.
That's one of the big things too, because that's affected a lot of folks this year. Of course, the pandemic has affected a lot of folks, and then there's been a lot of with the Black Lives Matter, there's been a lot of different things going on that have interrupted everybody's daily lives. Where people are trying to protest for justice, and I support that movement. With this year, just with events and everything like that, especially as a creator. How have you kind of dealt with all the cancellations and the different events that you've had to? Because we've all had to cancel different things, right? Like I had to cancel my Books and Brews, and it's a fundraiser for the Ronald McDonald House, and so we just try to be safe. So how have you dealt with that?
It's helped me put things in perspective and realize how lucky I am and how grateful I am to be in touch with people that I trust. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about trust. These events that were canceled that affected me only affected me in a way that like, oh, well, now my deadline's later than it was before. So I'm more relaxed. I'm more like, I had a strategy this year to only hit a couple of big events. Augusta Toy and Comic Show, September 4th and 5th, and Augusta was one of them. And Heroes Con in Charlotte was the other one. Well, Heroes Con was postponed until next year. So that's great. It gives me, Augusta Toy and Comic Show was pushed back a couple of months. And cleared by the state of Georgia. It's legal and safe, and they've got a bigger venue than they need for social distancing. And
I know some folks that it's like the conventions are like their bread and butter for their sales, and it's impacted them a lot. And I know you do a lot of commission work, and are the conventions more like a kind of like a marketing piece for you, where you can get out in front of people? Or
I love conventions because I discover new things. I meet interesting people. The people are just they're so in touch. Like they're more in touch with what's going on than I am. So I always learn. Like I'll write down sales on one side, and then I'll write down something I never heard of on the other side. And then when I get home, I crunch my numbers, and then I look at all the stuff that I don't know about, and I try to familiarize myself with what people are talking about and interested in. And you don't meet these people on the street, like these are special people. Like these are really interesting, intelligent, especially the sci-fi community, man. Like the sci-fi community is very, they have very refined tastes. Like they know what works, and they're like connoisseurs of the fan arts, in my opinion. I've tried to sell sci-fi stuff, and I'm not a scientist. I don't have a science background, so I can't speak intelligently enough about some projects I've worked on that were sci-fi to sell them the way I can Hawk, where it's more about outlaw. It's more about an outsider's point of view. I'm not from New York. I've been to New York once. I've been to upstate New York once. I've flown over to the airport, in Newark, and I'm in touch with a few people that were in New York. One of them unfortunately passed away this year. He was working on some of the videos that are associated with A New Way. So that accounts for some of the delay and the releasing of the videos. It was very tragic. It might have been COVID-related death. And this guy's younger than me. Did fantastic work.
I'm sorry to hear
His name
that.
was Jay Garrison.
Jay
Jay
Garrison?
Garrison 3D.
Wow.
And he did some great work for me. But unfortunately, he might never see the light of day. It just depends.
No.
In fact,
Hold
it would
that
be
thought
on
for
my
just a
control.
second. I'm sorry. We have to do the station ID. Everybody, you're tuning in to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Gold Soul. And I'm really sorry to hear about your friend Jay. That's just terrible.
It was. I took it really hard because Jay was a friend from way back. From I think I met him in the year 2000. I knew him for 20 years. He's a 3D graphics artist. And just a great personal friend. Like, he had a lot of good insight. He lived in Pennsylvania, I'm sorry, not Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and commuted to New York City for his work.
That's one of the things I love about this kind of stuff, because you and I met at a convention, and you know, we live states apart. You know, sometimes you lived, you know, in Europe and Germany, and I lived here, and you know, but the cool thing about it is,
I did an active duty stint in Germany for 2 years, and this year was supposed to be my big year of reconnecting with everybody, and social distancing put the kibosh on that.
Well,
so,
I think that's what I was going to say is, like, one of the coolest things
about how
about
it's affected
is comic books has, you know, like, been our connective thread. You know, because we have something in common. That's one of the things I like about, you know, the conventions. You have folks that you meet and you see, like, your con buddies. You see them like maybe once or twice a year, depending on how often you go to conventions or whatever. And you know, of course, there's a lot of groups and stuff like that. You know, where you can keep in touch with people. But it's always so cool to see folks in person, you know, and talk. You know, be able to talk, or like voice to voice, like right now. You know, you and I think this is the first time we've talked on the phone in a couple of years, even though we chit chat on Facebook from time to time.
Yeah, first extended conversation, to be sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one of the cool things. We've got a few minutes left before we play one final special song for everybody from the Hawk of New York soundtrack. Where can people check out your stuff, Randyl?
www.timebound.co. And if you go to Patreon and search for R. Bishop, you can find the 1 minute video that explains what I'm about. I think it's 1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes. I mean, you can spare 2 minutes to check me out. All right? You got to scroll down to see what it's about. I have quarterly returns. I don't have monthly ones. But my stretch goal is, once I get a certain level, I'll turn back on the monthly feature and cater to my fans. You still get the same amount of rewards you would if it did go up monthly. It's more like a cost savings measure for me.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you know, Mantlepiece, A New Way. The band produced the album. Mantlepiece is the band. A New Way, the Hawk of New York official soundtrack is the subtitle. They're on Spotify and on iTunes. I have physical media. Who doesn't like physical media? I have CDs for sale. So go to timebound.co, timebound.co, and buy a physical CD.
You can check it out there. I can't sell anything on the air.
Dream coaster if you don't. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just they can go and check it out there. Right? They can check it out.
Right. They can check it out there.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a community radio station, right? One of the things we do is we have to. We could talk about stuff, but I just didn't want anybody thinking we're trying to advertise because we're not.
That's fine. I apologize.
It's okay.
I have commercialness running in my veins.
Well, you know, that's one of the things as an artist and as a creator that we have to kind of, you know, if we don't pound the drum for ourselves and like, hey, everybody, listen up, you know, it kind of gets in your mind, you know.
Yep. I mean, as far as exploring what I'm about, I'm on Facebook, like The Art of Randyl Bishop, Randyl.
Okay.
You know, and you can explore there. The Hawk of New York's got a page there. Timebound Entertainment has a page there. I don't use it very often, but I have it bookmarked. You know.
Cool.
So
tell me about this A New Way song. Tell me about it, because we're gonna play this one out, but we got about a minute or so before I start playing it. Tell me about it.
Again, it's all about. We talked about the times about COVID and about the protests, and people are interested in justice, and rightfully so. A new way is what people are looking for. A New Way speaks to the times, and it's absolutely something I believe in. I'm personally connected to it. I'm not in Mantlepiece the band, but Mantlepiece the band is a collective. So you could be in a Mantlepiece band someday. You will be if you get this album. And A New Way kind of sums it all up. And that's where we're looking towards.
Nice.
It all comes down to trust, and I trust you, Adam. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh,
I really
love you
appreciate
too, brother. I mean, like, I honestly am so glad that we had a chance to get on the air and talk about this, because, that's what I love about folks. Everybody listening at home, this is one of the things I love about being able to talk to friends like Randyl. And Randyl, this is one of the things I love about, I've asked you questions over the years. You've, always answered questions. I've tried to promote your stuff and share your stuff with folks, and, and you've done the same thing for me. And that's what I love about that kind of community. We do have to stand together and help each other out, and not just on the, soft and fluffy stuff, the easy popcorn stuff, but the things that are affecting people's lives. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be able to play this song A New Way. And I think, I'm really glad to hear that, this is something that, like people do want change. So thank you so much, Randyl, for being with us on the show today, man. It's just been wonderful.
Thank you. And very quickly, I just want to say thanks to Ricky Zero and Peter Palmiani for their help in me getting ready for this interview. And of course, to my lovely family, my wife Ashley, my son Adam, and daughter Ella, and Mick Wharton and Juan Carlos Falcardio. Thank you guys for loving and supporting me over the years. You guys rock. Love you.
Oh, that is so awesome. Love y'all. That's so great. All right, everybody, here's A New Way by Mantlepiece from the soundtrack of Hawk of New York. And we have had the pleasure of being able to talk with Randyl Bishop, the creator of Hawk of New York.